We are live on DSTV, channel 421, Go TV 144. Thanks for choosing us. This is Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour. Ghana Education Service goes after members in Bangalos who have defaulted, demanding full recovery of arrears.
You should come and get education. You should come and get explanation as to how the situation arose.
You cannot just have 10% on income and expect everybody to take the same amount of money.
Mining companies invited to present health and safety plans failed to respond.
Into the 14 measures that they have already taken, some of the issues we also flagged, he indicated that he's observed them, he's flagged them, and some action is already going on in those directions.
Northern Regional Minister Shani Alhassan Shaibu says residents of Komblimagu, a suburb of Tamale, would have to produce the individuals who were tagged officials of the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO.
And I've asked the assemblyman and the opinion leaders of that area to produce these two guys, which they have failed to do.
At 8 p.m., I'll hand over to Charles and Gary for Prime Business and Prime Sports. Charles, what should people look forward to?
Well, in business, ECG has cut power to the Ghana Airport Company Limited over debt owed in excess of 49 million Ghana cedis.
Got to them, we spoke to them that this is our mission. But they were saying that they don't know us. But we were telling them that we are a national task force. Wherever we go, no one follows us. So, what we want them to do for us, they should tell us, so that we also tell them it can be or it will be.
And coming up in sports, Gary?
After turning pro, promising Ghanaian boxer Samuel Tichi says former world champion Ike Quartey will show him the way to success.
Ike Quartey is a world champion, so he knows the road to be a world champion. So I know he can show me the road for me to become the world champion. So I trust him, and I also trust my team that he can do it, and we all do it.
I am Ernest Min, and this is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Stay tuned for details. Thanks for choosing us. Let's settle for the details now. The Ghana Education Service is going after its members who have defaulted in the payment of their rent. A Finance Ministry circular in May 2006 directed all occupants of government bungalows to pay 10% of their basic salary as rent. But it has emerged that over the years, this directive has not been either implemented or complied with fully. The matter is up again, and the Regional Education Directorate is demanding full implementation of this directive, including the retrieval of arrears since 2006. Let me bring you details of a statement issued by the Western Regional Directorate of the Ghana Education Service. It says, in line with efforts to streamline the anomalies with regards to the payment of rent for occupying school or government bungalows, I wish to draw your attention to the Ministry of Finance circular on the 15th of May 2006, which requires that occupants of government bungalows are expected to pay 10% of their basic salary as rent. It continues by saying, I therefore write to inform you that with effect from 1st March 2022, all teachers, staff occupying school or government bungalow are to pay 10% of their basic salary. You are also to ensure all arrears owed are collected to avoid audit issues. I hope you will comply and act accordingly. So this is a statement that was written by the Western Regional Director of Education to the district directors as well as all heads of second cycle institutions in the region. And this is what has prompted the agitations by the various teacher unions. We'll be hearing from some of them shortly. But my colleague Kofi AJ joins me in the studio with more on this. And we'll bring you details. Well, Kofi, you have been looking at the Auditor General's report on this rent issue. What have you discovered?
All right. So, Ernest, if you look at outstanding, payment in terms of rent, the Ministry of Finance circular of which was issued on 15 receipt month in 2020, requires that occupants of government, bungalows, flats, quarters are to pay 10%, as basic salary per month. And this is according to the Ministry of Finance. And that's what you just said. And if you look at the health sector, 324 government workers from 11 institutions defaulted in the payment of rents between January 2016 and December 2019. This is according to the Auditor General's report, resulting in an outstanding rent of 472,223, and 16 pesos.
Okay.
As of the,
So this is just for the health sector,
exactly.
324.
Yeah. So let's do a breakdown of the health sector. So if you look at the institution, so this column is for the institution, and then we have the number of staffs, and then the amount that that sector is owing. So if you look at Achimota Hospital, we have number of staff being 10, and they owe as high as more than 42,000 Ghana cedis. 10 staff owing 42,000 Ghana cedis. Accra Psychiatric Hospital, 30. They owe more than 4,000 Ghana cedis. Shai Osudoku, we also have Shai Osudoku. Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, and then we have Cape Coast Metropolitan Hospital. Okay,
so for Cape Coast, you see 64 then. I think that's the highest so far in this
Cape Coast, the highest,
list you see here.
Followed closely by, Cape Coast, the highest, Teaching Hospital, the highest, and then the Metropolitan Hospital following. And we also have Tete Kwashi Memorial Hospital in the Eastern region, also being the second in this. So if you sum the number of staff, we have about 324. 324 staff.
The total amount?
The total amount is about 472.
Okay, but Kofi, I see something here. Even though we have 64 being the highest number of members who are in owing as far as the rent is concerned, in terms of the amounts, you're looking at the highest being the 205,374, and that is from the Sechri also government hospital.
And it's from just 44
of the staff there.
Members. So it means that there's some sort of variation in terms of the amount that...
And perhaps the period as well in contention.
Exactly. So let's look at the Ghana Education Service outstanding rents, the breakdown. And so we've done for the Ministry of Health. Now let's do Ghana Education Service. So we have Education Services, that's the headquarters, 9 tenants. And then between 2014 and 2018, they owe as high as 78,371 Ghana cedis. And the Ghana Education Service, Eastern Region Education Office, 5 tenants owing 18,248. And now you see that this period, the period has changed.
Yeah.
This was from 2014 to 2018, but this time around it's
this November 2016 to June 2019.
And the amount is 18,248 Ghana cedis. So we also have Education Service, the District Office of
Donkor
Krom being 48 tenants, and that gives you a sum of 14,413 Ghana cedis. So if you should add this to what we had earlier, that's close to 600,000 Ghana cedis. And if you also add the number of tenants to the earlier 342, we are hovering around 383 tenants.
Almost 400, public sector workers, just from the Ghana Education Service and the Health Service that are owing, government. Thank you, Kofi, for bringing us those details there. But let's do some more. The teacher unions have been reacting. Some of them are not happy with this development. Let's hear from Angel Kabono, who is president of NAGRAT.
There are teachers holding different responsibilities in the Ghana Education Service, find themselves in bungalows. They'll be affected by it because this is a general public service situation. And the letter the regional director referred to was a directive that came from the Ministry of Finance. But let me tell you how this works. That all public servants who are in government bungalows are supposed to pay rent to government. However, government itself, all over the years, have come up with exemptions to certain people or certain officials in government bungalows. So certain officials who perform certain duties take the accommodation as part of their condition or conditions of service. So they are exempted.
So that's Angel Kabonu. He's president of NAGWAT. One other institution that came up in this Auditor General's report is the Ghana Health Service, as illustrated there earlier. Let's go to Zoom now and speak to Perpetual Ofori Ampofo, who is president of the Ghana Registered Midwives and Nurses Association. Thank you very much, madam, for your time here on Joy News Prime. You fundamentally have an objection to the policy on rent being paid by your members. What are your reasons?
The reasons are that our members stay in these bungalows to provide services to various institutions. In principle, we are not against the policy of paying 10% of one's salary as rent. The issue is that there are varied types of accommodation, and it is unfair to ask people to pay the same 10% of their salaries, with people living in 2-bedroom, 1-story apartments, others living in 1-bedroom, self-contained apartments, others living in what we call babysitters. That's just one room, shared facilities of toilets, bathroom with other colleagues, and it's the same 10%. So these inequities in the system are what have always caused agitations in the past. And I'm not surprised that there are some institutions with staff that have some money to be paid. But to say that people have to pay arrears from as far back as 2006 cannot happen, because if through the fault, it's not their fault in any way for they having not paid if it was supposed to be deducted from source. But we need to sit down with our stakeholders and discuss this matter as workers, as employers, and as other stakeholders to find a lasting solution to this. Because when people live in accommodations that are provided by the employer or by government, it also facilitates the work in so many ways. In our case as nurses and midwives, those who live in government bungalows on the premise of the health institution or the hospital are able to come on afternoon duties, night duties, and act more on call-ins. They are called at any time to come and provide service because they are living on the premises of the hospital. And that gives the opportunity for their colleagues who also live very far away to be able to run more of morning duties so that and also safeguard their own protection, especially.
So that is very clear. I think these are the benefits that accrue to you as far as these systems are concerned. But when you say that it will not happen, you are essentially saying what? That you will not pay?
I'm saying that we need to sit with authorities on this matter, because going back as far as 2006, to be frank with you, in 2006, we didn't have any collective agreement with our employers. And some of these things were not even explained to employees who took accommodation in some of these bungalows. And to be frank with you, the issue, when you go down, our members, as it were, are not really against the payment of this 10%, which is on monthly basis. But like I said, the unfairness in terms of the type of accommodation and the amounts of monies that people are paying is the headache that we are having.
Very well.
So are they saying that if people have to pay arrears as far back as 2006, that would be unfair? We need to sit down with the Auditor General and whoever it is to discuss these matters, especially with so that we know exactly what it is that our members would have to face in this this current report.
Well, madam, hold on for me. We're joined by a lawyer. He will provide some perspective to this. Lawyer Charles Bawuadzua joins us via Zoom for some more on this development. First of all, you had her talk about the fact that it is not their fault that this was not deducted. But does the failure of government to deduct a source absolve the teachers of the responsibility of paying, especially within the period of defaults that we're talking about? You'd have to unmute your Zoom so we can hear you.
Yeah, I think that the inability or negligence, as it may appear, on the part of government to deduct the rent payable at source is not a barrier to government claiming the rent now.
Okay.
Fundamentally, if you owe rent, you have to pay. What it appears to me to be the issue is that it would appear that this rent issue was not negotiated between government, which is the employer, and then the workers represented by their respective unions or associations. And that is key. This is because if you look closely at Section 9 of the Labour Act, the employer has a duty, and in this case, government, to pay all the agreed remuneration of a worker without any deduction, except, and this is where the point is, deduction required by law or agreed between the employer and the employee. And when we talk about the reduction permitted by law, you are talking about taxes, you are talking about SNIT contribution. Those are statutory deductions permitted by law. Apart from that, any other deduction that the employer wants to make on the worker's remuneration ought to be agreed upon between the employer and the employee. It doesn't appear to me that in imposing a percentage of 10% on the remuneration of public service workers, there was some negotiation on that. And that is where the problem is.
Okay.
So moving forward, I think that government needs to engage the worker unions, the associations, to have a discussion and agree on the way forward as to how to deal with it. So it is not so much about the duty to pay rent, because, of course, if you want to occupy a government accommodation, you need to pay rent for it. And Perpetual was enumerating to you some of the benefits of workers occupying government accommodation. And I think we need to discuss this, sit around the table, negotiate it, agree on the percentage, and agree on the terms of payment. And I'm sure it.
Because you say there was no agreement specifically between government and the workers, would that also constitute grounds not to pay, especially for those who have allegedly defaulted in the payment, for instance?
Well, for those who have allegedly defaulted, you see, we have what we call statutory limitations. It appears to me, reading the letter that came, that the imposition was done somewhere in 2006. The statutory limitation is such that no claims can be made more than 6 years. So anything more than 6 years may not be claimed. But otherwise, once you have lived in it and there was an agreed rate, then they ought to pay the rent. If there was no agreement, it will be a subject matter of evidence for which an adjudicatory body may have to look at, or if the parties are able to sit around the table and find an amicable solution to it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bawuja, for your time. Let me take your final words from you, Madam Ampofo. Following this legal perspective, what do you intend to do about it? Are you going to initiate some meeting with the employers to discuss this?
To be frank with you, at this moment in time, it's not about us initiating any discussions with the employer. We expect the employer to invite us to sit down to discuss these matters, because the data shows specifically those institutions with the number of health staff who have defaulted over the years. And I'm not too sure. This data also gives the breakdown of the number of doctors, the number of nurses or other health professionals. So it is about the joint health sector unions, and it's about time the employer invites us to sit down and discuss these matters. That's how I see it.
Thank you very much. That's Perpetual Ampofo. She is president of the Association of registered nurses and midwives. Now, away from that, the Health and Safety Committee set up to investigate the health and safety regime governing Ghana's mining sector is calling on the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources to empower the Minerals Commission to crack the whip on mining companies that flout the law. This follows the revelation by the committee that many mining companies invited to present their health and safety plans failed to respond to the committee. The committee was set up following the explosion at Apiate that killed at least 13 people and left several others injured. Here's the committee chairman, Professor Richard Amankwa, speaking at a ceremony to hand over their report.
We had initial discussions with the Chief Executive Officer of Minerals Commission, and in addition to the 14 measures that they have already taken, some of the issues we also flagged. He indicated that he's observed them, he's flagged them, and some action is already going on in those directions, including some issues that I don't want to go into details here. So I believe that as we present this report today, with the action already going on, your good self, Honorable Minister, you will engage Minerals Commission and let them continue with the work that they are doing in this regard.
The Minister, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, said the report is going to be an invaluable report which will guide matters to do with health and safety in Ghana's mining industry.
Since this incident, unfortunate incident occurred, all we have done from beginning to now has been anchored on extraordinary integrity and transparency. We do this in service of the people and our country. And so this report and all other reports have been worked on objectively, dispassionately, and by men and women of considerable integrity. And we also, those of us who've been given the privilege to serve in government, will approach the workings of these committees and their outcomes with extraordinary transparency and integrity. As I said when I appeared before Parliament, we have absolutely nothing to hide. Everything is above board. We're discharging our duties with fidelity and loyalty to our oaths, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Joining us via Zoom for some analysis on this report and matters arising is someone with over 20 years experience in the mining industry, Dr. Frank Boateng, Senior Lecturer and Vice Dean of the Office of Research, Innovation and Consultancy at the University of Mines and Technology, Tarkwa. We are grateful for your time, sir. From your experience, how would you describe the health and safety regime governing the mining industry in Ghana?
I would say it's very robust. And I'll give you so many instances from experience. For instance, if you get into a mine, the first thing they will do is to conduct induction. And this is done by almost every mine. Just a general induction to let you understand the activities that goes on in the mine and how safe they want you to be. It does not end there. If your activity requires that you go into the plant, they give you further induction as to the kind of things you'll be confronted with. If your activities require that you go to the pit, that is where they bring the ore from, they also give you further inductions. Even to the extent that if you have a Ghanaian driver's license and you enter a mine or you are employed in a mine, they test you again and they issue you a mine license for you to drive just on the mining premises. And if you are supposed to also drive at the mining pit, they issue you an additional license for you to drive at the pit.
Okay.
I mean, this is just to tell you how the mining companies do not play with safety. And of course, because of tougher regulations, I mean, Minerals Commission, the Inspectorate Division will come and shut you down, if you report, a major LTI or you lose, a person. So traditionally, this has been the practice, and it is not so bad. But Apiate, has actually exposed us, and I think it's just about time that we do some review and strengthen the safety regime.
And I was just going there because you mentioned it was robust. I was just going to ask, is it so robust enough that you don't need an upgrade or a review? Because we understand these measures have been in the system for a while now, and there's not been a proper comprehensive review. Would you say that is what may have contributed to what some have described as falling standards and what may have led to this Apiate incident?
Okay, so let me take it from this angle. If you would be very truthful, to the safety practices in the mine, in a long while, you haven't noticed or there hasn't been any major safety incident reported in the mine. They do happen, once, in a while. But then, just as everybody is pushing for the minerals and mining, health safety and technical regulation 2012 LI 2182, it needs to be revised. And just for instance, let's look at the Apiate issue. And in recent times, you will see an explosive truck, driving with a front and back escort. Now maybe we need to step it a bit further. Could we even have tracking system in these vehicles? So that there will be an additional oversight responsibility for somebody to check the movement of these vehicles. Because nobody can stop halfway to go and eat fufu anywhere if we are tracking the movement of explosives and escorts. So this is where we need to go. It should be technology driven, and that is the angle that I think we need to go if we really want to be more proactive.
I'm grateful for your time. That's Dr. Frank Boateng there from the University of Mines and Technology, bringing us some insight into the latest developments. The Committee on Health and Safety presenting their reports to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Mino. Now, the Northern Regional Minister, Shani Alhassan Shaibu, says residents of Kobli Magu in the northern region, that's Tamale, would have to produce the individuals who attacked officials of the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO. A group of NEDCO staff who were on a routine disconnection exercise in the area were allegedly attacked with machetes by some residents. The NEDCO staff in the region have since declared a partial strike that has led to a cessation of power supply to the community in question. Speaking to Joy News, the Regional Minister, Shani Alhassan Shaibu, said this is not the first time such an unfortunate incident is happening in that community, and there's the need to punish the perpetrators.
Yeah, I think it has come to my attention. It was as a result of some misunderstanding between the NEDCO workers and some residents of that area, which led to the assaulting of a NEDCO operative. So we, in an attempt to arrest this guy who wounded a NEDCO worker, he fled, and so it was brought to my attention. I have asked the assemblyman and the opinion leaders of that area to produce these two guys, which they have failed to do. So I think that we have to put some punitive measures for them to produce this guy.
He's also ruled out sending the police to the area to fish out the persons who allegedly took part in the assault of the NEDCO staff. According to the minister, the last time such an incident occurred, the police were deployed to the area and there was a clash between the residents and the police, a situation he does not want to recur.
We are all aware that the other time we sent the police in an attempt to arrest people, perpetrators of these illegal activities, there was a clash between the indigents of that area and the police, and that led to some bad press. This time we don't want that to happen again, because this thing happened in the full glare of people. It wasn't in the night, it was in the daylight when these things happened, and nobody came to the rescue of this NEDCO staff. That's putting their lives in danger. One of them was cutlass, which I find not to be very, very good, but we cannot leave the law into the hands of people. So what we need to do is make sure that people own up and and be responsible with the acts of violence that people perpetrate in their various areas. We only ask the opinion leaders in that area because sending in the police there could trigger something again, which I am not interested.
Let's go to the court now. Fix the Country convener Oliver Barker-Vormawor has dared the Attorney General to follow through in his quest to prosecute him for allegedly plotting to overthrow government. He made these comments when the Tema High Court had a legal argument on whether the youth activist should be granted bail. The court is set Wednesday, March 16 to deliver its ruling. Court correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
More than 2 hours of legal arguments from lawyers for the Fix the Country campaign as well as the state's legal team. For the lawyers for the Fix the Country campaign, they hold a view that he's entitled to bail as guaranteed by Ghana's constitution and also because he's presumed innocent and that his detention cannot be punishment for a crime that they describe as not born out of the facts that have been leveled by way of the documents that have been filed. Akoto Ampaw, the leader of the legal team for Mr. Vormawor, assured the court that if he is granted bail, he will show up to stand trial anytime he is needed. He rejected claims that he had failed to show the state prosecutors and investigators where he lives or a fixed place of abode as it was described. Senior State Attorney Hilda Craig described Mr. Barker-Vormawor as a lodger, someone who lives with his friends when he visits the country and therefore does not have any fixed place of abode. She said the state having access to his passport is not enough assurance that he will show up to stand trial anytime he is needed. The court presided over by Justice Daniel Mensah adjourned proceedings to Wednesday, the 16th of March to deliver a ruling on this matter. The case therefore will be back in court on the 16th, but some of the Fix the Country campaigners have been sharing their views with us. Raphael, who is a member of the group, has been speaking to us.
We thank Ghanaians so much, those who are following this case, and Ghanaians who are so much concerned about what is happening right now in court. I can't prejudicial over some case pending in court right now, but what I will say is we thank the judge who sat over the case today. Like you heard, he said he's really certain with whatever judgment he wants to rule out there. We are just waiting for it, but all we are pleading is that let the rule of law work. If every single Ghanaian deserves a bail when it hits this point, at least Oliver is not different from it. He's supposed to be granted bail just like any other citizen. The country has to protect its citizens and not to scare them. Okay, so we are just hoping that the judge on Wednesday, as they've adjourned the case, will come out and give his ruling, and we are hoping that Oliver will be granted bail so that the police can continue with whatever investigations due to make sure that they come out with a conclusion of this case. That is all we are hoping.
Will you be surprised if he's not granted bail?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because it is just a history repeating itself. This happened in 1954, okay, when Nkrumah rose up fighting for this country. Okay, so it has happened. It's not only Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Samula Marcels, Patrick Mulumba. History is just repeating itself. Okay, when you rise up in your country to fight, you need to be ready for all this kind of intimidations. We are ready for it, and we are going to stand firm and support Oliver till the end of this case.
We are back at the Tema High Court on Wednesday, 16th March. For Joy News, my name is Joseph Akable.
And here in the studio, my name is Ernest Minu with Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. After nearly 2 years since the La Polyclinic was pulled down, works on its replacement, that's the La General Hospital, has commenced. However, residents in the La community remain doubtful the project would finally take off. In 2020, the Polyclinic was marked for demolition after it failed a structural integrity audit. In March the same year, it was pulled down with the site earmarked to house the La General Hospital. But work never commenced until today. Residents in the community are casting doubt on the project. They say they have witnessed similar stunts in the past, only for the equipment to be packed out days after. My colleague Michael Papaniashale was there in our reports.
Nekeno bena ba kat so jomini jo akeba na gbena na keni bi efente ene ye bi e cheje ngmene anya akeba ba kete.
One of many residents who doubt the project takeoff. She tells Joy News she has seen machines brought to the site in a similar fashion, only to abandon the site a few days later.
Na kumone 2 years ne.
Ifia Ohiniwa Ate is a mother of 2 and is one of many residents who used to patronize the polyclinic. She delivered her second child at home because the clinic had been pulled down and could not make it to any other health facility on time.
When the hospital was there, my second born was born there. I went to a police hospital and asked him to come to Land Journal. I was giving birth there, and even when I was leaving, I was in charge with it because my insurance covered me. And with my TNT, so I was okay with it. But for my third born, I went to Rage. But because of the distance and my husband was on around, I get back in the house. If the hospital were to be there, I can even take a walk to there. But to here to Rage, I can't take a walk. So it has really affected a lot of us. I was calling my husband and the phone wasn't going through. But if it was closer to me, I can take a walk and go. And meanwhile, I was in labor, so I can't walk from here to Rage. You understand? So I was feeling the pains and I just sat down, put clothes on the floor, and I get back on it in the house. Before I started to call one of my friends, before I was taken to Rage.
Meanwhile, a quick visit to the site shows heavy equipment have been brought to the site, readying the place for construction to commence. Foreman Zakaria Awuntoma tells Joy News the project is expected to be completed in 30 months.
Now we are about 20 more, 20 now.
Okay. You have about 20 people here.
20 people here.
And you. So for the work that you started, what are they expected to do? The 20 men.
Okay, the 20 men. Some are electricians doing the electrical work, and then carpenters and then masons. Okay. And we even have plumbers too around.
Okay. One of the Chinese gentlemen who would also tell me some of the things that they are hoping to do. So, sir, so for the sake of language barrier, I wanted to ask him that. When did they come in? How much of their equipment do they already have in the country expected to begin proper work? If you are asking that for me, when should we expect proper work to begin?
Okay. Shatta, you allow this work. How good, proper good work we do?
No, no understand.
I don't understand what you are saying, but only thing is that they be like some of the plans, unless we finish before they can even do the one he left. So for now, he knows all the demarcation way they will do after that, and then we'll come and then we start inside.
Okay, great. So, Foreman, maybe you want to walk us through the plan, the progression of the building that is supposed to go on here. Month by month, what are you expecting to have done, and to how long do you expect to finish?
Okay, for the finishing, I only cut it short. We have it's only 3 years contract. It'll be 3 years contract where we have to do here. Okay. At least by 3 months. By 3 months, we can finish. Last I told you, I tell you, be 7th floor, 5th floor, and then 4th floor, and then the other ones. By 3 months for the 7th floor, I think we can done. Yeah,
I see. The residents are appealing to the government to complete the project, which they say is critical to their well-being.
Government or president hani abafia
amecha amekwana amebafia meyawo she to hospital ya ni tashin san ma ya review siton mbeshika wona kana ni ngbena.
My wish to do very fast for us to enjoy it, no matter how it will be. they should build it fast for us because we are really suffering for the hospital.
Since the not fit for use polyclinic was pulled down, the residents have resorted to other health facilities in the area. Their wish is for the hospital to be completed as soon as possible. They believe a hospital of this magnitude would serve them greatly. Michael Ashale's report for Joy News.
Now, the authorities of the Forestry Commission in the Bono region say they have been left with no option than to shoot and kill cattle that are invading and wreaking havoc on forest reserves there. It comes after the authorities observed hundreds of trees under the Green Ghana project have been destroyed by over 2,000 cattle. Bono Regional Manager of the Forestry Commission, Noble Eshen, cautioned cattle owners to confine their animals or incur the wrath of the security personnel that have been deployed to these reserves. He told my colleague Samuel Mbura if the situation is not curtailed, it will seriously affect the Green Ghana project.
I can't actually confirm the number, but there are a lot of cattle that has invaded 5 forest reserves in the Bono region. The Bono region, we have 9 forest reserves, and 5 of them have been inundated by this cattle menace. And it didn't come at once. They took their time, and they attempted to enter through one area, and it distracted us. We focused all our attention at that area before we realized they had used other routes to enter the forest, these various forest reserves at various areas.
So can you tell us the number of forest reserves that have been affected?
There are 5 of them currently facing this problem. There are Kain 1 forest reserve, Kain 2, Insemere, Yaya, Saw.
So what is the operational plan to deal with the situation?
Currently, we have engaged the regional security, the RECSEC, and the various district and municipal security coordinators, the MUSEC, that's in the affected areas. And together, we've managed to get agents of these cattle herders, and they've asked them to leave together with the police and the military. We also have our rapid response teams that occasionally go in there and try to drive them away. But as you know, when we move in there, the cattle charge on us, and the cattle herders also resist any efforts that we try to put in to ward them off. They should leave with immediate effect. If not, we'll send people to shoot the cattle on site. We cannot shoot the herders, but it's the cattle that we can. And we've been doing that. Within the past 2 weeks, we've shot 15 of them, but they still persist. But we are still engaging with other stakeholders and other security agencies to assist us in driving them out of the forest reserve.
Are you able to quantify the number of trees that have been affected by the activities of these animals?
Currently, we are still doing the survey. I cannot give you a number now. We are still doing a survey to know the area that has been devastated, and from there we can give you the number of seedlings that planted that they have destroyed, because they are still there. When we move in there, it's very dangerous. They attack our personnel, and it's very dangerous to move in at this time.
So is this a setback towards achieving the main purpose for the Green Ghana project?
Yes, that is, if we are not able to control these activities, it's seriously going to affect the objectives of the Green Ghana project.
To other stories now, a 40-year-old man has been crushed to death while en route his wedding reception at Sumisa in the Ashanti region. The Sunday incident occurred after the marriage ceremony had been held that morning. According to police, the groom, Mohammed Zakari Bambangida, lost control over his Ford vehicle and consequently veered off his lane and landed into a ditch. We have a breakdown of accident data this year, and Kofi Ajay of our research desk joins me again in the studio. Kofi, from January to February, so many accidents.
Exactly.
But what are the details?
And just as you have it this year, from January to February, in the span of 2 months, it's sad that we've lost 469 precious lives to road crashes. On Sunday, the accident that happened, I was on my way to Kumasi, and then unfortunately I chanced on
the accident,
the Suboy one, and it was, although they had cleared the place, but you could see that the impact and then the kind of scene I saw myself, I was actually, not feeling so good after the whole scene.
Traumatizing.
Exactly. I was, let's do a breakdown of this 469 road accident deaths that we have, and then motorcycles continue to lead. Has the biggest share of this whole chart.
205
lives in just 2 months. and then commercial vehicles being leading to 175 deaths, and then private vehicles 89 deaths in a span of 2 months this year. Now, if you do a comparative analysis from January to February, you realize that the number of deaths as a result of road traffic crashes has increased from 232 in January to 237. You know, 5 more lives have been lost. If you compare it comparatively, you could see that, you know, February is slightly higher than what we saw in January this year. But if you talk about accidents, there are 8 indicators that we always look at.
Okay.
So some good news for Ghana at the moment, because we have 4 of the indicators which saw a nosedive, like a decline. You know, we have the number of deaths, that's year on year. So if you are comparing this same period from February to January to February to what we had in 2021, the same period.
So January, February 2021, as compared to this year, there is a decline.
Exactly, for 4 of the indicators. First one is the total number of deaths within this period under review. It saw a decline of 9.28%. That's very good. That's very significant. It's a good news for us. And then if you look at injuries, the number of injuries involved in accidents also saw a decline of 3.72%. And then motorcycles involved. I was actually waiting to see this, you know, has declined by 2.16%.
That's just marginal.
It's marginal, but it's significant actually. It's an improvement if you compare, you know, the year-on-year figures. And commercial vehicles involved also, you know, very significant. 8.96% decline in terms of the total number, you know, commercial vehicles involved in the accident. Now, there were also other, you know, I spoke about 8 indicators. There were other 4 indicators which, you know, saw an increase rather. So if you look at the total number of reported cases, if you compare this period to what we had last year, it has increased by 3.14%. You know, that's the total number of cases increasing by
accidents reported.
Exactly, accident reported, you know, increasing by 3.14%. Let's look at private vehicles involved in accidents. It has seen an increase by 12.90% in the period under review. It means that more private vehicles are now, you know, being involved in accidents if you compare this period to what we had last year. And pedestrian knockdowns. This one is so unfortunate because sometimes you yourself, you are just doing things right. You are just walking to a place.
So that has also increased
by 1.49% in the period under review.
And then the number of people involved
in accidents has also seen a rise by 7.66% in the period under review. Then the last one talks about the month-on-month analysis.
So
let's look at motorcycles, private vehicles, and commercial vehicles. We are looking at the number of deaths. So we have, let's look at motorcycles.
So motorcycles.
So we have the orange one being January and then red one being February. So if you look at motorcycles, the number of deaths has increased from, 93 in January this year to 112 in February this year. So if you do a month on month, it means that more people died in February than they did in January, if you look at motorcycles alone. Then in private, when we talk about private vehicles, slightly a marginal increase from 44 in January to 45 in February. And then we have commercial vehicles seeing a decline from 95 in January to 80 in February. So that's what we have at the moment.
All right, Kofi, thank you very much. We seem to be doing well slightly, but when you look at the nominal figures, they're still not good enough. We hope that we can achieve what we set out to. But when the Upper East region is mentioned, I'm sure that the only tourist site that comes to mind is the Crocodile Pond in Paga. But I'll also interest you to know that Paga is also home to the Pikoro Slave Camp, which is a very important historical landmark for the country, although very little is known about it. Dating back to as early as the 1704, the slave camp was known to be a place where slaves from northern Ghana and southern Burkina Faso were often kept for several days before they were carted to Salaga Slave Market in the Savannah region for sale and onward transit out of Africa. For our Ghana Man series, Joy News' Upper East correspondent Albert Sorry puts the spotlight on the Pikoro Slave Camp.
Pikoro is a small area of land in the Nanya suburb of Paga. The name Pikoro in the Kasem language simply means a lot of rocks, and it was so named obviously because of the rocky, hilly nature of the area. The history has it that in the early 18th century, this place was a thick forest and tampered with by humans, until one day a strange man showed up and mingled with the locals. He pretended to be offering help to people who wanted to travel abroad to work with white people. Pikoro was allocated to this man because he wanted a place to stay. It turned out he was a slave capturer.
Around 1704, a young man who was a black man came and settled here, and he was not willing to tell much about himself to the people who were living in the village as at that time. So the people gave him a name in Kasem, Bagao, meaning a bushman. And this man, according to the history, he could speak so many local languages. He was physically and spiritually strong, and he was having weapons which were given to him by the white people. So he came and started the whole business here in small scale, capturing young men and ladies, keeping them here. From here, he take them to Salaga slave market, where they were sold out to retailers, and from there they were marched through Asimanso, Asimfosu, down to the Cape Coast Castle, and they were being handed over to the white people.
Joseph Kuguramu is a tour guide here at the Pikoro slave camp. He takes us on a tour of the camp. First, we learn of the arrival place for the slaves in those days. The slaves were often tied to these trees upon arrival here at Pikoro. Later in the evenings, they would be marched through this route and up this hill. On the hill, they drank water from this small well here on the rocks. It is believed to date that this well never dries up. Meals for the slaves were also prepared here on the rocks. The meals were served for the slaves to eat in these little trenches carved out on the rocks. Basically, the trenches were their plates. After meals, the slaves were entertained in a rather interesting way.
Over here, slaves were brought anytime they finished their supper in the evening to this place. It was compulsory for them to be entertained to make them reduce the emotional stresses they were passing through. These are two rocks near to each other which sound differently if you hit any part of them, slightly different like the traditional drums we have in the village.
The type of music performed on these rocks in the days of the slave trade has remained with the people of Paga even to date. These men here gave us a feel of that music. We are also shown this rock, which was used as a watchtower by the slave masters to look out for slave raiders or any of the slaves that were trying to escape. The final point of the Pikoro slave camp is what was called the Punishment Rock, and then the cemetery.
As the slaves were very tall and they were giants, their legs could be down here fully, then their hands would be behind them. So they were being chained against the rock, tightly against the rock. So you were told to sit on the rock with your eyes widely open, watching the sun. And the punishment starts from sunrise from the east. So you were watching the sun rise from the east, follow the sun with your eyes widely open, and accompany the sun till it set in the west. That is almost 12 hours here during the punishment. And if you try to close your eyes, you were accompanied by beatings. Many were not fortunate to survive this punishment, and those of them who were not fortunate to survive it were all laid to rest here in the cemetery.
As old as the Pikoro slave camp is, it was never converted into a tourist site until the year 2000. But even then, many Ghanaians up until now are unaware of this important historical landmark.
And that's it for our Ghana Man series and then Joy News Prime. Many thanks for your company. You have more stories on myjoyonline.com. Up next is Prime Business and Prime Sports. Stay with us.
You're watching Prime Business with me, Charles Ayete. Coming up, power supply to Ghana Airports Company cut over 49 million cedi debt. We'll hear more about a distress action undertaken by the Electricity Company of Ghana.
Got to them, we spoke to them that this is our mission. But they were saying that they don't know us. But we were telling them that we are a national task force. Wherever we go, no one follows us. So, what we want them to do for us, they should tell us.
We have more on this and other business stories coming up. Please stay for details. Now, the National Task Force of the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited has disconnected power supply to the Ghana Airport Company Limited over debts to the tune of 49 million cedis. According to the team lead, Nene Shadrach Maseb, the debt is affecting the operations of ECG, hence the need to embark on such an operation. He revealed that the airport company opted to pay 1 million cedis, which the ECG says is not enough to cover their arrears. My colleague James Eshen embarked on the distress, the distress action with the ECG and has come through with this report.
The task force of the Electricity Company of Ghana, in its quest to collect all debt owed by state institutions, were at the Ghana Airport Company Limited at around 11 a.m. on Monday morning to possibly disconnect power supply to the airport after weeks of prior notice. The task force say per their directive, 1 million Ghana cedis out of the 49 million Ghana cedis owed by the Ghana Airport Company Limited was less. Thus, they expect at least 5 million Ghana cedis out of the owed amount.
On our docket, they are owing us about 49,000 cedis, and they feel reluctant to pay. So for now, this 49, that when we break it down, is about 6 accounts. The huge one is Terminal 3. And so we are disconnecting them for them to come so that we sit down on the table, so we iron out how the bill will be paid. So that is why we are disconnecting that particular.
I want to get a figure. Is it 49,000 or 49 million?
49 million.
49 million Ghana cedis.
49 million.
But were they given any prior notice before you coming here today?
They were given prior notice from the region until we, the National Task Force, came in. So they gave us the docket to pursue that amount.
But when you came around, were you able to reach out to the authorities of the Ghana Airports Company Limited?
Yeah. We got to them, we spoke to them that this is our mission. But they were saying that they don't know us. But we were telling them that we are a national task force. Wherever we go, no one follows us. So what we want them to do for us, they should tell us. So that we also tell them it can be or it will be. But they couldn't give us any concrete answer until they went in to write a check of 1,000 or 1 billion, 1 million.
The task force will continue its journey tomorrow as they chase other government institutions owing the Electricity Company of Ghana.
Away from that, the stability of the cedi will be a major determinant for any significant reduction in fuel prices at the pumps in the coming weeks. That's according to some oil marketing companies. They argue that the declining crude oil prices may not be enough to justify any significant reduction at the pumps. George Rafi has more.
Crude oil prices have gone down by almost $20 a barrel in just 1 week. It is currently trading at around $110 a barrel. This has led to some pushing for a reduction at the next pricing window, which officially starts from March 16, 2022, that is this Wednesday. This has led to some pushing for prices to be kept unchanged or reduced marginally. But for some of the oil firms, they have told Joy Business that despite the reduction in crude prices on the international market, the Ghana cedi should be fairly stable in the coming days for it to affect prices at the pumps locally. They argue that since they still need more Ghana cedis to import the same volumes of petroleum products, someone would definitely have to take care of this extra cost. Well, it looks like a reduction in crude prices on the international market should be complemented by a fairly stable Ghana cedi for consumers to start benefiting from any reduction in prices at the pumps. There are also projections that crude oil prices could be dropping further in the coming days, as US has hinted of more release of its reserves on the market to deal with supply and demand challenges. But is this cedi stability being used as an excuse by some of the major oil marketing firms, or is indeed justified?
Well, we can now hear from petroleum expert Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, who is concerned about the impact of the cedi depreciation on fuel prices. He fears Ghana may not have any existing measures to cushion consumers from the global shocks.
They're having a lot of speculative jumps. Within a day, it could go like, it could increase by $6 or $7. Within another day, a single day can drop by $6 or $7. These are not real, actually.
I want to hold you on that particular thought, because we are seeing demand for the commodity also shoot up with supply somewhat along the global line.
Yeah, sure. We should be worried, because if you look at the market trajectory now, if a commodity high prices is as a result of supply, restrictions, then demand growth, then we should be worried about that.
But even as we haven't, how much can this be a threat, especially once again to consumers?
Yeah, so yes, equally as much as high oil prices is a threat to consuming public with respect to what the consumer pays at the pump, equally cedi depreciation has a similar effect, if not even more.
And we shall keep our eye on prices at the pumps to give you updates as and when. But that'll be it for Prime Business. We'll leave you with how business stories around the world are faring in this segment of International Businesses. Many thanks for watching. I'm Charles Aite, after which we have sports with Gary L. Smith.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime. Gary Al Smith here with the sport. In our first story, it's boxing. Former and promising Ghanaian boxer, Samuel Techi, believes that the former world champion, Aikwote, will show him the way to greatness. Now, the Accra-born boxer, who officially turned pro last week after signing a deal with Bazooka Promotions, is eager to follow in the footsteps of the Ghana boxing legend under whom he signed.
Aikwote is a world champion, so he knows the road to be a world champion. So I know he can show me the road for me to become the world champion. So I trust him, and I also trust my team that he can do it, and we all do it. I'm no more an amateur boxer again. So what I have to tell Ghanaians is that the support they give it to me at the amateur level, I'm begging them to give me that support at the professional level too.
Let's do some football. And the big question is, what stadium will host the first leg World Cup qualifying playoff between Ghana and Nigeria? Well, the latest news is that this morning, the Confederation of African Football sent an inspection team to the Cape Coast Stadium, which is slated to be the venue, to ascertain its readiness for the March 25 fixture. This happened after Nigeria officially wrote to FIFA and CAF complaining about the poor nature of the pitch as they had seen on social media. And this follows its use a week ago for the Independence Day activities. Now, the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in Kumasi, on the surface at least, appears to be in good condition. The question is, will CAF and FIFA grant Ghana a special dispensation to take the game there to Kumasi, considering we didn't apply for that venue as one of the venues for the game? Well, Stephen Zando of our sister station Love FM in the Ashanti region was at the venue today and has come through with this report.
My sources at the corridors of both the Ghana Football Association and the National Sports Authority tell me that the GFA have made contact with CAF to consider moving the game from Cape Coast to Kumasi because the Cape Coast Stadium, after hosting Ghana's 65th independence anniversary, may not be ready in time to host the game. Although officials of the NSC have already commenced vigorous work on the field to put the facility in shape, their fears the venue may still not be in good condition to host the Black Stars of Ghana and the Super Eagles of Nigeria next week. The source also revealed the government, together with the GFA, wants the game to be played at a venue that can admit more spectators, as it is believed a vibrant crowd on the day would be instrumental in Ghana's quest to qualify for the World Cup in Qatar. And so yesterday, before the Ghana Premier League encounter between Asante Kotoko and Bibiani Gold Stars, a representative from CAF inspected the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in the Ashanti regional capital to ascertain its condition to host this international fixture. The CAF inspection team member, identified as Ugandan but name withheld, was in the company of the Deputy General Secretary of the GFA, Alex Asante, and the Director General of the NSA, Professor Peter Chumesi, during the inspection. The good thing is that we hear the CAF rep was left satisfied with the standard of the Baba Yara Stadium, which has prompted the speculation that the game may be moved from Cape Coast to Kumasi. But the news is that both the GFA and the government now want the first leg encounter of the World Cup playoff between Ghana and Nigeria be played in Kumasi. So this is where Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Kimfeza Football Club have been enjoying their Ghana Premier League matches. And that's a bit of a confirmation that the Baba Yara Sports Stadium is up to standard to host any football match. Now, from the evidence of what we have seen here today, the facility is certainly in a good shape to be passed for any international assignments. The pitch looks green, it looks good, and balls bounce perfectly on it. We are aware of the CAF rules. We are aware of the FIFA rules, which do not really allow for change of venue, especially when it is the game between the Black Stars of Ghana and the Super Eagles of Nigeria is in less than 2 weeks' time. But like the saying goes, there is nothing new under the sun. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out in the coming days ahead of this particular game. Reporting from the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in Kumasi, Stephen Zando for Joy News.
We have 11 days to go to the game. And I'm sure most of you are asking, how did we even get here in the first place? Let's check out the timeline of how we did get here, all right? With the Cape Coast Stadium, won't he, or won't it? Let's see how we got here. So essentially, while we wait for the slides, the interesting bit is that the Baba Yara Stadium was not ready at the time the GFA submitted its statutory list to CAF and FIFA. So at the time, the GFA only submitted the Cape Coast Stadium and the Accra Sports Stadium. The Accra Sports Stadium was rejected because it did not meet the requirement, and so only the Cape Coast Stadium was pass fit. So the question was, if Ghana as a country knew that this is where we were going to have the game, why did we have the Independence Day celebrations in Cape Coast last week? Let's see the slides. So on the 25th of January, this is the timeline. The National Sports Authority wrote to the GFA to consider moving the game to the Accra Stadium or Baba Yara because the government had told the FA that the independence celebration will be held in Cape Coast. So that was on the 25th of January. And then 3 days later, the GFA wrote to CAF requesting this particular thing. What did CAF say? Well, the response a day later was that this could not be done and reminded the GFA that on the 24th of December 2021, that was the deadline for the change of venue to be requested, and that the Baba Yara Stadium was non-homologated to host international matches. Fancy way of saying it was not available. 2 days after that, on the 31st, the GFA wrote to the sports minister, copied the National Sports Authority Director General, and attached CAF response following their request to the change in venue to tell them that it will not be possible. So, if Baba Yara and Cape Coast Stadium are not approved, we understand Ghana versus Nigeria will be moved to a neutral venue either in Benin, Cameroon, or Morocco. Yikes. Anyway, let's move on to other things. In more positive news, this weekend, the Black Princesses took a huge step towards qualifying for this year's Under-20 Women's World Cup. Why? They won 3-0 against Ethiopia in the first leg of the final qualifying round at the Abebe Bikila Stadium. Ghana went into this fixture as favourites and produced a very good performance as the hosts struggled to keep up with Ghana's dominance. The head coach of the Ghana side is Ben Foucault, and he's happy ahead of the second leg.
Well, I feel happy. I feel very happy about the performance of the girls today, because we spoke to them before the game, telling them that we need to win the game, we need to qualify the game in Ethiopia. That's exactly what the girls has done, because we told them that this had the Ethiopians play their game. So let's handle them, don't let us give them spaces. If you give them spaces, they can play at their own game. So let them go in this game plan, don't give them space, put the passes together, and making sure that we get our game and get our win.
Right, now guess what? The return fixture for this game will be played at, you guessed it, the Cape Coast Stadium in the fortnight. That will be after the Black Stars game, okay? And the winner of that second leg, or the aggregate winner, will secure qualification to the Under-20 Women's World Cup that will be held in Costa Rica in August. Let's come to Ghana. And Hearts of Oak in the Ghana Premier League are not giving up on the title chase just yet, despite being 15 points behind the league leaders, Asante Kotoko. And speaking after his team's 1-0 defeat to Aduana Stars in Doma, head coach Samuel Puedu assured fans that his players will not give up until it is mathematically impossible.
No, it's not yet over. This is football. Sometimes you could see the boys, they did well, they play well. But it's quite unfortunate. The first chance, we got the first chance to score, and we didn't score that chance. And then the goal that they score is not a chance that they got it, and they punish us. But boys didn't try. Say mobile fight. Say we cancel the goal and come back to winning way. But it's quite unfortunate. Say we always training. These are the mistakes. Yet me identify. You bet me I am Wojuma. Yes, 1 day or 2 days. It takes a matter of time. So you bet me I'm working on that.
Hearts of Oak looking to defend their title. Will they? Can they? Could they? Well, what I could do is that I could say bye-bye to you. Thank you very much for staying with us on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary Al Smith. There's more on myjoyonline.com. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing.